Greetings, humans. Welcome back to the Black Pill. Today we're discussing rhetorical violence, verbal judo, and linguistic krav maga, which I'm going to do everything in my power not to pronounce as krav maga. Uh, it is just about hot as balls here. It's hot as balls everywhere. If someone could fix climate change, I'd appreciate it. Uh, Otherwise, like, get out your. I mean, what are you doing to not be so freaking hot all the time? Um, anyway, here we go. Let's start with verbal judo, or the verbal judo. This seems to originate in policing just about at the time the public started to be really concerned with police violence, particularly police violence against unarmed black men. While de escalation should be the order of the day, verbal judo at least puts limits on aggression. Now, look, I have people who are in the PDs, who are in charge of PDs, and some of those departments have actually done real work towards real de escalation. Uh, verbal judo, verbal judo is not that. Um, So I'll link you a thing from The Guardian here. To be clear, the root of law enforcement is force. If police are involved, they need you to do something, and they won't leave until you do. So the verbal judo is a technique for arguing non-compliant people into compliance. That is not de-escalation. Uh, as judo uses the attacks or momentum of the opponent against them, keeping them off balance, so verbal judo turns all the arguments of the citizen, all of the objections against them. Maybe I could find a demo and insert it here. Fuck if I'm recording one, but at the moment, I'm not even sure I had the brain to write this, and we'll see how I do reading it. Anyway, maybe we're trying to get a person to step away from a house, right? We've had a complaint. Homeowners have complained someone on their property. Dude by the house, we're the police. And so the point of the argument, the point of verbal judo, is to get the person to step away from the house voluntarily, so that we're not in the position of attempting to force them to step away. So we're trying to avoid violence, but the threat of violence is always there. The police uniform, right? The black and silver and the badge and the guns and the tasers, don't mix them up, right? The hat and the flashing lights, these all guarantee that the threat of violence is always present. And if the citizen does not comply voluntarily, escalation escalation is probably necessary. Officers generally don't have much choice. So I was in a car with a friend who was a former officer, a retired. I think he made captain at some point, and he was explaining that you do not want officers using their judgment. You want officers applying the law equally in all situations. Discretion has a way of becoming its own sort of tool of violence, or discretion can become for sale, or there's bias attached to it, like that. So officers usually don't have that much discretion. There's a chain of command, and indeed they are chained by that command, chained to that command. If the directive were de-escalation, much of the time, the way to de-escalate a situation, a confrontation, is to leave that confrontation and take all of your symbols of power and authority and that implied threat of violence with you. This isn't as controversial and like cultural Marxist and whatever pinko as it sounds. Like, high-speed chases are somewhat the poster child for this movement. High-speed chases usually, almost always, end in crashes, collateral damage, violent takedowns. If police know who a suspect is, it often just makes sense to let them drive away. And then they'll drive to wherever they're going. They'll get out of the car. You watch. You have the helicopter, just drones anymore, way cheaper. Observe from a distance, observe from overhead. Make the arrest later in safer circumstances. So that's verbal judo. Argue citizens into compliance to prevent violence that the state is somewhat obligated to escalate into. So there's 5 stages of verbal judo, and they go kind of like this. Number 1, just ask. Just ask the person to do what you want. Hey, you mind stepping away from the house? And then if you're met with rejection, opposition, you move to the next, which is to set rules, context, right? Why is this happening? We're asking you to step away from the house because we've had complaints you're harassing the homeowners. If we could just talk over here, we could clear this all up. All right? Still nothing. Options. Present options. So, this is cops. We're talking carrots and sticks, baby. So, look, man, we can talk over here and you can tell your side of the story. Otherwise, we're going to have to put you in handcuffs and take you downtown, right? You don't necessarily get to tell your side of the story. You don't want all these observers to see you in handcuffs, right? Carrots, sticks, incentives, threats. Still no compliance, no agreement. We're moving on to the confirmation. Confirm that there's no way this is going down except in violence. So what would it take to get you away from this house short of force? Short of dragging you away in handcuffs, what can we do? How else can we resolve this? And then you have to act. Stage 5, act. At this point, the negotiations have broken down. The only thing you can do is the only thing left to do, and for police, that can mean escalation. Now we're putting hands on somebody's body. Now there might be a scuffle. Now we might be drawing weapons. Now we might be confused about which hand is the taser and which hand is the pistol. God, am I doing clips? Oh God, this Project 25 thing. If you haven't read up on Project 25, you need to do that. You need to go do that right away. So there's a quote that this is the second American Revolution, and it will be a bloodless revolution as long as the left allows it to be. Whatever argument seems to be taking place on the surface, the real thesis of verbal judo is we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. We're going to start by trying to do it the easy way. Then we're going to explain the options to you. Then we're going to lay an ultimatum. And then we're going to be like, you're absolutely sure you want me to put you in handcuffs and haul you off? All right, fine, we're going. Right? And whatever implied threat of violence underlays that, right? You can come quietly, or you can come along in cuffs with blood on your chin, but you are coming with me. Krav Maga. Dude, I don't know that much about it. I went pacifist before I ever heard of Krav Maga, but I asked the internet for the most aggressive, active martial art, gave me this. Plus, it has maga right in it. So I'm totally obligated here, aren't I? With apologies to Israeli Defense Forces, here we go. Krav Maga is not a self-defense paradigm. Krav Maga is a kill your enemy paradigm. The best defense is dead or incapacitated enemies. Blocks are also attacks. Grapples and holds injure and immobilize. It's like Steven Seagal's wet dream, man. So soldiers aren't really for arresting, detaining, breaking up protests. Soldiers are for killing enemies, holding ground. Uh, so, like, if you're a soldier and you get an enemy in a hold, you have to let them go eventually. Then they become a liability. So you break them. That's it. So, verbal Krav Maga, which I'm just applying a label to a thing Republicans are doing. Republicans? Uh, this is a point for this is a point for a longer talk, I think. But um, Nazis, right? What Umberto Eco defined as the fascist in his 14 steps, that with an explicit racial ideology, the small n Nazi. Those guys are trans political, right? Like corporations are transnational. These guys, they're not Democrats or Republicans really, or conservatives or liberals really. Hmm. They are whatever people are voting for at the time, and wherever they can insert themselves into power and like be protected and not removed thereafter from power. So these guys who currently occupy the Republican Party, but remember that Mussolini started as a communist and then switched to the other side when he couldn't really get the traction that he wanted there. Remember that the actual big N Nazis presented as socialists, right? And the KKK used to be Democrats. These guys are trans political. Um, so verbal Krav Maga is an escalation of verbal judo. The point isn't to convince anyone of any arguments, positions, or even actions, even compliance. The point is to destroy argument itself. It's bringing a gun to a chess match. If I flip over all the tables, point the gun at innocent people, and demand you declare me the winner, you're going to do that, and then I can say, I am the winner. Right? And that declaration has the force of law. I won the chess tournament. But I have actually, I'm not good at playing chess. You know, your 8-year-old could probably beat me at chess once they learn my like 3 tricks in it. This style of rhetoric relies on taking the offensive. Never apologize, never explain, deny. Shift the burden of proof, equivocate, and especially accuse. Use tone to make the point, and the point is, I am strong. My enemy, never opponents, my enemy is weak. I am the winner. You know, I may or may not win this moment, but I am the winner, and this guy is the loser. All right? So I'll show you some Marco Rubio. It's so fucking hot. I don't know if I have the energy to like insert this and figure out how to insert this thing. I gotta take my glasses off when I'm doing it. Into the middle of the video. All right? But there's a clip of Marco Rubio. It's probably in the down belows there. I'd like you to watch it. It's Marco Rubio on Meet the Press, and the question is, Kristen Welker, the question is, will you accept the results of the 2024 election? No matter who wins, Rubio says, I bet you'd never ask Democrats that question. Accusation, media bias. Right? They're the ones who vote not to certify elections. Did you know in this year, these Democratic senators voted not to certify? Did you? In this year, these people in the news said Trump was illegitimate in this year. And now you would need some pretty deep background, actually, to know that those things aren't unfactual. They're still lies, because we're using these statements to imply a bigger picture where everything is equal, as I've covered before. They're still lies, but there's this nugget at the bottom that makes these things true. Like the casual observer could go and you get interested and you look it up and you're like, holy crap, Democrats really did vote not to certify the whichever election. Even I forget now. I think it was Al Gore. What year was that? 04? Was that 04? I remember. So this is a knowable fact that Democrats have indeed voted not to certify the results of presidential elections in states that Republicans have fiddled with. Like 2 or 3 Democrats voted against certifying the results of the elections in particular states when there's a particular bunch of closing polling sites in majority black districts, throwing black voters off the voting rolls, telling Democratic voters to vote the wrong day, that kind of stuff. When there's a bunch of shenanigans, a few Democrats have, and they've done it as protest, knowing that everyone else was going to vote to certify it. And this would get, it never did actually, it should have. This would get some attention and be in the news, and someone might investigate this. And you could start to repair democracy in that way. A couple of Democrats doing this in protest, while the Democratic vice president overrules them, is wildly different from a block of right-wing assholes agreeing to, in a coordinated effort, attempt to overturn an election from inside, while outside their leader rallies racist, fascist militias to assault, overrun the Capitol with a noose set up site to hang the vice president if he doesn't go along with it. Kristen Welker is so far utterly helpless against this. Kristen Welker is so far utterly helpless against this tactic. It is not normal behavior for this venue, although increasingly, why am I making excuses? Increasingly, it is exactly normal for Republicans. Shout your point when it's your turn to talk, then shout over everyone else when it's their turn. Man, if this were my show, I would change the format. I wouldn't run these guys live. I'd record it ahead, then run it with breaks to fact check each point, right? And if I've allotted 10 minutes for the interview and they say one lie that takes me 7 minutes to fact check, they only get, 3 minutes on the air, fact check each point and toss each and every mother plucker who talked over me. Well, sir, this interview is over, right? Greetings, viewers. We were going to run an interview with Marco Rubio today. But I think all you really need to know is he was incapable of civil discourse. So I'll tell you the points he tried to make. With fact checks, he claimed X, the facts are Y. But his record was 1 partial truth, 6 outright lies. Right? As Joe Biden found at the debate earlier this month, what an embarrassment, letting them talk at all is submission to violence, rhetorical violence. There is no point debating people who aren't there to debate, to explore ideas, to concede points that they've lost, to remain in consensus reality. No point. So, violent rhetoric versus rhetorical violence. These guys do enough violent rhetoric to talk about. Trump telling cops around America at rallies to not be too gentle when shoving people in the back of squad cars. To fight like hell. To beat up protesters at rallies. Right? All very well documented at this point. If you haven't heard it, you probably have your head shoved up some right-wing disinformation hole, and you should pull it out now. Good. Violent rhetoric is appeals to violence as means to solve problems. Usually, for these people, the problem is they would like to have power, and they can't get it by fair means. So that's not what I mean. Today, I mean rhetorical violence, not violent rhetoric, which is arguments as a means of destroying argument entirely, of using the logical errors, the fallacies to which humans are prone. And here's my favorite source for logical fallacies, for beginners. It's cute. The point is to make falsehood look like truth. So this is like, it's every dumb argument your mom wouldn't let you get away with when you were 5. Every schoolyard retort there's no comeback for, because we're not really participating in an argument or a discussion. We're lobbing bombs, right? Mr. Trump, you keep sort of praising Vladimir Putin, but doesn't Putin murder journalists and political opponents? Look, lots of presidents were bad guys. You know, you think American presidents don't have blood on their hands? Uh, Dude, yeah, sure. Like, it's very difficult to be the president of the United States and not get your hands dirty, right? You're CNC of the military. Your hands are getting bloody. But the question was, sir, given that Putin murders journalists and political adversaries, why do you talk him up all the time? Right? The argument, lots of presidents do bad things. We're shifting the focus, right? Don't answer the charge of enabling and ennobling dictators. Point over there. Everybody's doing it, right? Little Johnny, why did you smear feces all over your shirt? Oh, everybody's doing it, Mom. Well, if everybody jumped off a cliff, would you? Right? Your mom doesn't let you get away with that. Welker is taken to asking every Republican who comes up on the show now this question. Do you see how not committing to accept the results of the next election, do you see how denying the results of free and fair elections reduces faith in democracy? Do you see how it makes people skeptical about your ability to govern? You're the ones denying election results. Did you know in 2004? Right? Put the interview on their back foot. Get them off balance, judo, right? Get them to defend themselves, or at least stop pointing at the truth. Accuse. So your right-wing voters are like, that's right, she didn't even bother trying to defend herself. There's like 9 fallacies in that one response. Argument to hypocrisy, the chiefest. We don't even need to get into it, because the point is not the fallacies. The point is to attack rather than to defend the charge, right? And this one is like, it's, I know you are, but what am I? You're a cheater, little Johnny. Nobody wants to play baseball with you because you cheat. A cheater, I know you are, but what am I, Whatever you say, I'm rubber and you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. There you go. I know you are, but what am I? Just like childhood crap that 5-year-olds don't get away with at home. Equivocate. Move the goalpost. Just deny reality. I never said that. Dude, here's tape of you saying it. Literally tape of you literally saying the thing. Everyone heard you say it. Well, I don't know where you got that tape. I never said that. Right? And this just it just destroys the ability to have a reasonable conversation. So in the end, it comes down to who has the most guns and the willingness to use them. Who has the power? There are 2 pathways to persuasion. This is social psychology stuff. They're creatively called the primary route and the secondary route. The primary route, the high road, the frontal lobe, uses logic, reason, sometimes a little bit of empathy. The secondary route, the low road or the limbic road, uses base emotions, amygdala stuff, limbic stuff, fear, rage, disgust, sometimes sex, especially for dudes. Humans, weirdly among mammals, human males, our limbic system is involved in our sexual response cycle. So sometimes sex will, especially threatening sex stuff. So homophobia stuff. Rhetorical violence makes appeals to tone, to angry expressions, to contempt, fear, accusation. And then, 2 classes of listener. There's sort of the non cognoscenti, stupid people. People not smart enough or educated enough or informed enough to detect all the lies and the fallacies. And they're just like convinced by strength and muscle or its appearance, right? Domination, spray tans. And then there's people who are smart enough to detect all that, but they just don't. Because they're wrapped up in like a team ethos, you know? And so they're using their reasoning skills, their frontal lobes, not to sort through information and make rational decisions, but to rationalize what their pack mates are saying, what the other jackals are saying and doing. The end is the same. Violent rhetoric, rhetorical violence, the end is the same. Actual violence. When people are riled up about scapegoats and denied victory through democratic means, and they think they are not only right, but righteous, they lash out with great vengeance and furious anger. How do you stop a runaway Supreme Court? This is the ultimate, oh God, this is the ultimate rhetorical violence. A far-right stop the steal upside down flag Supreme Court decided to make Trump immune from prosecution while preserving the ability to review that authority for future presidents, meaning Biden can't send SEAL Team 6 to murder Donald Trump without consequences. The Supreme Court is just that, supreme. There is no review possible in any other court. There's no review possible in the legislature without a constitutional convention to change the Constitution, and Republicans and their Nazi allies control at this moment, I think it's 26 of 50 state houses. You can't impeach them because it's a 50-50 Senate, just about right, 51-49 or something, and a one-seat Republican majority in the Congress. So that just isn't going to happen. I'm hearing just today, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is introducing articles of impeachment for Clarence Thomas and is it Scalia? There it is. So there's no review possible. You know, those impeachment articles will go exactly nowhere because Republicans. They don't care about a functioning court. They care about a court that's on their side, a partisan court. So all that's left to do is destroy the court. And the political left will never have the power or probably the will to do that by administrative, legislative means. Violence has been done by powerful people, the Supreme Court, the 6 conservative majority, willing to rationalize whatever result they want into law with no thought of future consequences. The ultimate rhetorical violence. We have the power to say these arguments. You have no power to argue back. The arguments are not legitimate. They're rationalizing the behavior that we want to do. Right? It's 6 justices said he has this immunity, and 5 of them wrote independent opinions about why he has this immunity. They don't agree on the legal basis for it. There isn't a legal basis for it. We have the power to do this. We have the power to tell you this is why. No one has the power to argue. That's rhetorical violence. I've been the Black Pill. You've been whoever you are. Now get out of here.